everybody for joining me today. I really appreciate it. My name is Evie Love. I have actually just been to Big Sky DevCon for as many years as I think it's been around, like since 2012 when it was at MSU. So I'm super excited to be a part of the community still to this day. Before I really get started, you guys can read. So I'm going to try not to read from my slides a lot, because I trust that you can all read. I have been a part of the tech community in the Gallatin Valley in Montana for 10 years, and it has been one of the most amazing journeys to watch our community grow from 2 or 3 smaller organizations to what I think is a bustling tech community in a rural environment. It's been an amazing journey, lots of lessons learned, and I'm thrilled to be standing here to share some of the lessons that I've learned, so maybe I can save you all some pain when it comes to recruiting. Here's my agenda. When I first went to some people and told them that I was selected to speak, I was trying to get feedback on what are some areas I should cover or any suggestions. And somebody had mentioned, tell a story. And I was like, I don't know how to tell a story. And they laughed right at me because that's total BS. I can tell a lot of stories, and then you guys get to guess which ones are real and which ones are fake. I want today to be interactive because recruiting is interactive. Recruiting is something I am ridiculously passionate about in a way that I don't even think my closest friends can understand. So interject with questions, comments, challenge me if you would like. I am open to all of that. Recruiting is, it's human, and in human life we interrupt a lot, so feel free to do that to me. So these are my subject matters that I'm going to cover today. Again, I trust that you can read. Ooh. Oh, I didn't go that fast. Okay. So to start getting that interactive vibe and feel, I thought we could take a couple polls and you guys could look around and maybe you'll know each other a little bit better at the end of this. So I want to figure out who we have here today so I know what areas I may be able to focus on a little bit more. So are there R&D leaders or business leaders in the his house right now? Yay! Everybody look around so we know, because we're going to raise our hands a couple times here today. All right. People responsible for making hiring decisions today. Excellent. I love it. You're in the right room. I love Mark and hydrospectral imaging, but I'm excited you're here today. Anybody just involved in the hiring process, part of the interview teams, etc.? Yay. Excellent. Love it. And then anybody just curious and looking to learn? Yay! Woohoo! Okay, perfect. Now I know my audience. So are there any areas, now that you've seen my agenda, that maybe I should focus on a little bit more or you want to talk about a little bit more? Okay, perfect. We're just going to roll right through this. No questions, no interruptions.
Okay, now I got one.
Oh, okay. What's that, Jake?
Like sourcing and keeping your pipeline full, right? Like making sure you're attracting talent that is interested in that.
Sourcing and keeping your pipeline full. There's a little bit of me that died inside hearing that, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that. Perfect. So I just wanted to start with those of you who don't know me and share the story of my journey and what puts me on this stage today. So like I said, somebody said tell stories, so I'm going to tell you stories. But this is going to be semi-truthful. So once upon a time, there was a little girl. And she had no clue what on earth she wanted to do with her life. And that was okay, but she knew she had a rockin' fashion sense. I decided to go to school in New Hampshire because I wanted to go to a school whose mascot was owls, which kind of snowballs into a weird obsession I have with that animal. And I grew up in the 80s, and perms apparently were pretty cool back then. I studied management and communication and probably, to be honest with you, social interaction and beer drinking. And when I graduated from college, people asked me in interviews, tell me about your internship. And I was like, Oh, I taught kids how to swim and lifeguarded. Look at my tan on this really nice pale skin. And I realized very quickly that was not going to get me anywhere. But I grew up, and my first job out of college was sales, and it was phone sales. It was 125, dials a day, smile and dial, and it was awesome. I loved it. I loved talking to people. I loved calling. I loved the competition. It drove me. But I was selling software licensing, and that was probably one of the most boring things ever. And for those of you who are under 40, and you don't know what software licensing is, be very happy. So I grew up, and I realized I needed to do something else with my life. And the reason I got into recruiting is because of this guy. When I was selling software licensing, I was just complaining to my father about how boring it was. And he said, well, Evie, why don't you sell people? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, Dad. And he was like, no, I mean headhunting. And I had no idea what that was, but I started to only look for headhunting jobs. And I realized I could still talk to people all the time, but I could learn about them personally and not like how many Microsoft Office licenses they had for their 150-person company and try to upsell them licensing. And that's when I fell in love with recruiting. And I have been doing this every day since then, since 2001. So I've worked in pharma, I've worked in tech, I've worked in manufacturing, very short time. And I found that tech is really what I loved. So I've been in the Gallatin Valley about 10 years, and I've been recruiting for 2 different SaaS organizations, and I've helped them grow. And I've really enjoyed all the learning experiences that I've had and the fall-on-your-face flop lessons that everybody goes through in life. I put this up here with these pictures of me as an adolescent to show that I am okay with vulnerability, because when you're interviewing people or you're sitting on the other side of the interview table, it's extremely vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there to a bunch of strangers who are going to judge you for what you've done. And if you're on the interviewer side of the table, remember that. It's hard. And silence is okay. I might not be quiet a lot, but I am during interviews. So the first step of the journey that we will go on today is about defining and identifying your hiring need. So a lot of hiring managers always need something, and they need it now, and we needed it 6 weeks ago. But then when they start interviewing people, they realize, oh, wait a minute, I don't need this that we agreed upon. I need this over here. And that's one of the challenges of recruiting, is reassessing and rearranging your entire life to refocus on their needs. But as a hiring team or a business leader, really helping go through the process of the want versus the need is incredibly helpful to everybody involved, the candidates and your interview team, your company in the long run. I like to break it down to talent versus experience. Talent's like, what your parents gave you, what's in your genes, what you have the ability to do, and what do you have the ability and desire to learn and become great at versus, yeah, I've already done that. That's experience. Both are valuable. I'm not saying one outweighs the other, but something to think about as you are interviewing. The other thing that I think is imperative is culture and company value add. You'll hear it's probably the biggest reason why candidates are rejected from positions is, well, they weren't a culture fit. And that is a cop-out. I think that that's an easy way to say, I don't like that person, and I don't want to work with them. Fantastic. Find a tangible, real reason why they are not technically, businessly, whatever, aligned to that job. And also, the new thing in recruiting is culture add. Is there something missing from your culture that would make it better? Is there something missing from your culture that would add to the enrichment, the development, the, what's the P word I'm looking for? Productivity of your team. So that's kind of the new thing in talent acquisition is culture ed. To identify who you need as a business, you really need to understand your market. You need to know your team first, which we just talked about, but you also need to know who's in your market, and you also need to know what's happening in your market. Like I mentioned earlier, our tech community is growing here in Montana. People are moving into the state all the time. If you go to North American Van Line's website, you can actually find where people in your county are moving here from based on their van rentals. Tip. So that's how you can then turn and target that county. But right now on Indeed.com, you can see the amount of software engineer and senior software engineer job postings. And that is just in the state of Montana. So the competition is fierce for engineers. And I just focus on engineers to keep it a little bit narrow because recruiting is extraordinarily broad. So the average candidate, and this is what I've seen over the last 24 months, and I do recruit, I'm just trying to focus on the US. The average candidate has 4 offers on the table when they're going through your offer. So we'll get into the differentiation piece in a bit, but know that it's a highly competitive marketplace out there. And know who you're targeting and who you want to focus on. This is a new slide, so I might stutter over it a little bit. Somebody came up to me at the barbecue last night and asked me, Evie, if we're going to talk about recruiting in rural markets, how do we find non-white males? And I was like, oh, that's so easy. I can't believe you would ask me such an easy question. Well, it's really difficult. One, you need to know your market. You need to know what your diversity in your marketplace is before you start figuring out how you can find diversity in your talent pool. But diversity can be broken down into many different ways. It's not just ethnic or gender diversity, it's also experience. Is this person coming back into the workforce and do they have life experience? Is this person from a completely different industry? Are you a small startup company and this person is from Oracle with 200,000 employees? And what would they bring to the company? And that would be a different thought, opinion, experience, perspective. It has been very proven that diverse teams are more productive teams. I had an experience recently. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm willing to be transparent as I can. We are hiring a leadership role, and we have 2 finalist candidates, and one is a traditional engineer, grew into leadership background, and the other is not. This person has never actually coded. This person has never actually managed people directly. And my senior director of engineering said, I went in with a bias, and I was conscious about my bias, because a lot of us have unconscious bias, but he said, I went in with bias and I made myself self-aware of my bias so that I could be more focused on the interview and what I was trying to learn. And at the end of the day, I loved this non-traditional candidate. The fact that she comes from a different environment and a different background is incredible and could be a tremendous value add to the company. And I felt a little warm, like fuzzy come up through my whole body because that doesn't happen every day in recruitment. All right. So, the fact is, engaged hiring managers and engaged hiring teams get top talent because they drive it. Non-engaged hiring managers who just push it over to recruiting will never, ever hire top talent. At the end of the day, engineers, even engineers at Workiva, receive over 15 emails a month, and that's probably on the low end, from recruiters, just like me, saying, hey, saw your profile, thought you were great. Just talk to me, I got a good opportunity, and we have a beer fridge, come on. Though that doesn't really work anymore. We're gonna get to this pipelining thing here in a minute. If you're a hiring leader, engage with your community. Get out there. And you don't have to sell or pre-sell, like you can pre-sell. Actually, you probably should pre-sell and not oversell. But nobody's going to come work for you if they don't know who you are. So get out there in your community and get people to know who you are. Whoa. So you need to attract talent. And by attracting talent, you have to develop a strategy to do that. I hear from my senior C-level leadership, what's your pipeline look like, EB? And I kind of laugh in a professional manner, which all of you who know me know is really freaking hard, because I laugh loud and unprofessionally. There is no such thing as a pipeline these days. Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Colorado are 2 markets I focus on. Candidates that are actually active, meaning out there seeking new employment, are off the market in under 8 days. Montana might be a little slower, less opportunity, but nonetheless, there is no such thing as a pipeline. It is all about networking. Get out there in your community and build your network, and then people will know you, and people will talk about you. So speaking of people talking about you, we're going to talk about, oh, I missed that slide, sorry. Here's a few easy ways for you to build brand awareness in your market. Sponsor events like this one. Host events. Host events at your company. Let people see what the work environment looks like. And be honest and transparent. Talk about the challenges. Like, yes, you will probably be very frustrated because of this process. However, and then hit them with a zinger of positive excitement and the reason why they would want to work there. Present at conferences, get your name out there. I 100% agreed with Diane earlier today when she talked about the best person to market yourself is you. And then when it comes to like national recruiting efforts, I would and we can go offline and talk about this, but I would recommend like specific targeted, geo-targeted advertising campaigns on tools like Reddit or Stack. Like who are you targeting? Are you targeting engineers? Then don't go on LinkedIn, because they don't hang out there. But they're on Reddit every day. So where's your advertisement there? Now we're going to jump ahead to what I jumped ahead to a minute ago, candidate experience. It's extraordinarily important. We're humans, we love to talk. And we love to talk about good experiences, but we're even more excited to talk about our bad experiences. Like how salty the food at the poorhouse is, or, oh my God, I just had the worst recruiting experience with Workiva. So here's a lesson I'm going to share with you. My InfoSec team had an opening, and it was for like a senior level Splunk administrator. And we had pretty minimal pipeline because they wanted to look for somebody in Ames, Iowa, which as lovely as Ames is, there's not a giant, Splunk user community there. So I consulted and said, let's look in Denver. There's some IT folks in Denver, they wouldn't be alone, let's go there. And we didn't quite find the talent that we were looking for, so we had to go out and hunt for them. We identified a candidate. I thought he was amazing. And he interviewed, and everyone loved him. And then nobody could make a hiring decision. I could not get the hiring manager to call me back, text me back, or Slack me back. And that candidate was actively interviewing with other popular companies in Denver, like SendGrid. And he said, Evie, I interviewed 2 weeks ago, and I kept in touch, and I texted with him almost every day. And I said, here is Eric's number. Please call him, because I'm not having effective response and communication. He was unable to obtain that. So we had to say, Mr. Candidate, please go with SendGrid because they are responsive, they are giving you a good experience, and they are clearly the employer that wants to hire you. That stung a lot, but it was the best opportunity for the candidate. And at the end of the day, yes, I work for Workiva, but I'm also a candidate advocate. And I'm not kidding you, it was a little over 24, but it was not even 48 hours later. One of my partner recruiters in Iowa calls me. He's like, what the heck happened with Nick in Denver? And I was like, how do you know? You're the corporate recruiter company marketing. How do you know? Well, his wife the candidate's wife is a recruiter for Apple who knows this recruiter, who came here, and did and just like Kevin Bacon, in 48 hours, the truth came out. Really terrible candidate experience. So it will impact you, and now it will impact us and our reputation in the Denver market, and clearly any other market, since word travels to Iowa that quickly, that there's a bad, interview experience at Workiva. So just know that the impact of candidate experience is extraordinarily important, because we're human and we like to talk. Are we good? Because we are not interacting, and maybe it's because I'm up here, but any questions so far? Feeling good? Yeah.
Just what you said about bad experiences. When I was in college, I worked summers at a hotel outside of Yellowstone, and one of the statistics that they put up there is that when you have a good experience at a hotel, you generally tell 3 other people. However, when you have a bad experience, typically you tell 10 people.
Yeah.
And so that the point I think that they want to make is you giving potential visitor a bad experience negatively impacts the business 70%.
Did everybody hear that? Okay, yeah, 70% negative impact. That's wild. That's a huge percentage. And I'll believe it. Because I've stayed at hotels. And motels. So, the purpose of this slide is to tag into your comment as well as the candidate experience starts before they even apply online, before they even come up to you and say, hey, I want to work at your company, or, ooh, I don't think I want to work at your company. It's everywhere. In this day and age, with social media, it's everywhere quickly like wildfire. So, I will mention Glassdoor, and this is a personal opinion. I find Glassdoor to be a venting site, to where people go to anonymously, just negatively destroy companies. I very rarely have seen an anonymous, positive, wonderful, loving experience posted. However, 90 to 95% of the candidates that I talk with all read Workiva's reviews on Glassdoor. So they're reading yours too. I have a love-hate with Glassdoor. The other thing to think about while you're interviewing and talking with candidates is like the with them, the what's in it for them. They're thinking, I need to prove myself to this guy or gal, I need to talk to them, and I need to showcase how amazing I am, and I need to focus on all my wins. But they're also thinking, am I going to have time for my family? Am I going to be able to balance this? Are you using cutting-edge technologies, or are you not? Will I have autonomy, or am I just going to be told what to do all the time? Is there a risk for me accepting a job with this company? Is it healthy, or are they just putting on a game face for the interview? So keep that in the back of your mind as well. Again, it is 2019. I find transparency is more and more clear every day. When I first got started in recruiting, there was no transparency. I wanted to talk a little bit about tools for attracting talent. There's paid tools. If you're lucky enough to have a recruiting resource at your organization, there's a lot of tools that they can get. I will +1 in Tello till the day I die. I find that's an amazing tool. It's like a one-hit wonder for recruiters. Believe it or not, in the Gallatin Valley, and I don't mean to not talk about other valleys, but the Gallatin Valley is just more of where my market knowledge is. You can still advertise in the Chronicle, which is pretty cool. And then there's partner agencies. If you are typically small shops will partner with an agency. There will be a third-party recruiter that you work with. Invite them in and make them a family member. Share with them the truth and the pain and the suffering. Have them spend the day with you. Have them spend the day in the office. Have them understand what the team is like so they can go out and properly sell the opportunity. Make them part of your team, or you will just get crap spaghetti resumes thrown at you all day long that waste your time. And then again, I'm a big fan of geo-targeted advertising. But I'm the biggest fan of your network and your community and word of mouth. And I've recently started exploring sourcing on GitHub, and it's like learning a foreign language. I kind of dig it. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to differentiate yourself in your organization. You need to find out why your employees work for you and what they like. And then you need to capitalize on that and advertise it. What is the common theme? You know, interview all of your team. And if there's 5 buzzwords that keep coming up, utilize those buzzwords. We'll get to my hate for buzzwords here in a minute. But any questions on that? Still making sense? All with me? Again, differentiation. I'm a big believer in it. And knowing, I will touch on this. So while I was preparing for this call, I talked to, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 leaders of different organizations across Montana. And every single one of them, except one, and you can talk to me after about who that was, said, talk about not poaching. Talk about not poaching talent. And I was like, oh, I get it, I'm a recruiter, and I really try not to. And the older I've gotten, the more I really don't do that anymore. But when I was young and ignorant, I really was aggressive on it. But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to work at Workiva, or hey, I'm interested in learning about Workiva, I will entertain that conversation. But I probably won't actively go out and find people in Montana. I am more interested in people coming to Montana, so you're welcome for all that traffic on 19th. So the one person who didn't talk about poaching said, if people want to leave your organization, it's time for you to look inside and figure out why and fix that. And that was probably the most profound thing he's ever said to me, and I've known him for years. So I was impressed with that. But again, if we're going to add diversity and we're going to add new thought and creative ways to solve problems, looking nationally is a lovely way to do that. And I know through talking with several people that they've really had to do that. And one of the lessons was don't move a guy from Texas when it's like negative 30 degrees out. So wean him in the fall so he gets used to it. Buzzwords in advertising are I have a ton of pet peeves, and my husband would, be like, no, she has millions. And, but these are probably the top buzzwords that drive me insane, and rock star is the biggest one. I hate that term. I don't hate a lot of things, but I want to hire a rock star. Oh yeah, the narcissistic alcoholic who can barely play an instrument, is that really what you want? So think about that, and think about the message that you're trying to send to the potential recruits when you are developing your advertising. Oof. How are we doing? Because we're getting to step 3. Step 3 means we're almost there. Okay, yeah.
Like you hit on that with the buzzwords. Like as a candidate, I look at that and I kind of your point of like the hiring manager needs to be involved. Like that tells me that someone who is a practitioner of that is not involved in the job title and the hiring, and it just stinks right away. You're just like, clearly they don't care if that's what they're doing, is throwing industry buzzwords at me.
Yes, I will agree with you. Did everybody hear that? When he sees buzzwords in advertising, it means that the actual technical leader was not involved in the development of that advertising. I will agree.
So, can I ask, what do you like to see?
Good one, Nate.
Like me personally, so I'm a product manager, like I want to see them using the language of actual product management, not, like again, people using technical terms that an engineer will understand and knows that like someone knows that. And that's like, rockstar, like don't tell me that, like tell me deep understanding of the customer. Like I go, oh, because a rockstar product manager has a deep understanding of the customer. Right? That's,
I would say just in working with leaders, because I write job postings and descriptions quite a bit, keep it simple, stupid, is probably like one of the easiest things to do. Like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to do it with? What are the challenges of the role? you know, if you just hired somebody recently for the role, ask them, what'd you like about our job posting? I try to ask every candidate the same question because of EOC and all these legal things we need to do. But I would say, what was it about our job posting that attracted you? And my favorite is like, oh, well, I've been applying to so many jobs. I go, what do you do again? The people that are like, well, you're using Dart. I've never seen a corporate company use Dart. And you're right, that's pretty rare. So I know they've actually done some research and they remember. I would say keep it simple. Talk about what they'll do, who they'll do it with, and what they need and what's nice to have, or what's something different, like what's missing from your team, what would you like to have, and then advertise towards that. If you're doing actual reach out, like cold reach out, personalize it. Do not send a generic mass email to 30 engineers. Personalize it. Takes more time, but it'll pay off in the long run. I have done experiments. I have done the quantity. Same message, 30 people, nothing, eggshell, you know, crickets, no response. Some guy's wearing a Celtics shirt. It's like, what's up? I lived there. I grew up there. How's the traffic on I-28? You know, whatever. Just try to do something to connect with them personally, which ties into the pipelining being dead and networking being key. People have egos, and they want it personalized. So I ask a lot of my engineers. I say, hey, tell me about the emails that you've gotten from recruiters lately. Like, oh, they like some of them. It's like, oh, let's have lunch. Let's pull this up because it's really funny, and it is. It's like, this job's perfect for you. This job fits everything you've ever wanted in your life. Well, this recruiter's never talked to this engineer. How do they know? So I like to take the approach of not going in and being like, I've got the perfect job for you, but I take the approach of like, I just want to learn about you. I want to know about you, and I want to know what makes you tick. And after we have that conversation, we can go our separate ways and just say we met one more beautiful human in this world. Or we can talk about Workiva and how amazing it is. It really just depends on that. But I really try to personalize and individualize and be specific and find something like take the time to like look at their Twitter, look at their Instagrams, look at whatever, Google them. I'm not a judgy person. Like if there's like, I've definitely looked at the Facebooks for things to pick out to talk about. But even if like, you know, John's doing keg stands at the 50-yard line, like, I don't really care about that. Can you code? You know, I go that route. So pick and choose what you might want to comment on. If your culture needs that keg stand at the 50-yard line, then by all means, comment on that. But, you know, pick and choose, and don't be judgy. Thanks, Jade. So we're going to interview. Again, keep it simple, stupid. I think a lot of people overcomplicate the interview process. It is extraordinarily easy to do it. I will give an example. This is back in the day right now. I had a marketing VP who was going to hire a marketing director, and the candidate interviewed with 17 people. I would call her Courtney. I'll never forget her. I was like, I don't even know what to say, Courtney, but she wants you to meet with these 4 more people. And Courtney's like, well, I've already met with like 90% of the company. And I was like, I know, Courtney, but we can't really make a hiring decision until you've met with 98% of the company. And luckily, Courtney was hired. But that was a brutal experience for her. That was also over, 7 or 8 years ago before we actually gave a shit about candidate experience. The easiest way to not make interviewing complex is to plan. Plan it out. Define the team ahead of time. Assign what they're going to focus on. Keep it consistent for every candidate for that specific position. That helps legally. If you're not in the whole EEOC legal area, probably don't have to sweat it as much, but it wouldn't hurt. Set expectations for your interview team and your interviewee. Be clear. You're going to meet with John. John is going to ask you behavioral questions about how you've screwed up relationships with senior leaders in the past. I mean, you don't have to be that transparent, but it'll help John because he'll be able to think about examples. One of the things where Kiva likes to ask about is failures. Tell me about a time where, a project didn't work or didn't go, as planned. And I always try to warn my candidates ahead of time. Have 3 to 5 failure examples across the board. Failure in building a relationship, failure in getting a project done on time, failure of making a customer, time you didn't make a customer happy. So that they're armed ahead of time with specific examples, which we will dig into about being specific in a minute. But that helps you understand how they can talk about their failure, but what they learned from it and where they're going to improve upon that. Excuse me. The preparation ahead of time also reduces repetitive interviews. Like, I guarantee Courtney had 16 interviews that were exactly the same, and only the 17th one was a little bit different. I guarantee it. So, try to prepare so that each group is asking different questions or focused on different things, and that the poor candidate isn't just repeating themselves all day long. Because I've seen it. It's common. We still do it at Workiva. We're not perfect, but we're getting better. The Google believes that the effectiveness of identifying the right candidate doesn't improve after 4 interviews. So if you're having like 5, 6, 7 stages to your interview process, you really need to reevaluate and figure out what you're learning. What's that gaining? Because I can tell you what you're losing: time, which means money in this day and age. When you develop your interview team, think about who you want on the team and be specific in who this person's going to interact with, who they're going to work with, who's going to manage them, who's their, who's the stakeholder, who's the customer that's going to deal with them every day. And then to throw a wrench in it, get somebody who has nothing to do with them, who will never work with them, who might only see them in the cafeteria or whatever, getting coffee, because that helps get rid of bias, and it helps see a broader picture of the organization for the candidate, like, an engineer interviewing with a customer service person. When you're developing your interview questions, 5 whys on the how. Pretty simple, but I don't know. We can go into more detail if you guys have. I have like billions of tools. I could probably send you a 32-page document on interview questions, both based on motivation, based on teamwork, based on management, based on this. So just ask me that. But these are easy ways to ask open-ended questions. When you get your boring, canned response that tells you nothing, this is when you can turn to STAR. If you're on the interviewee side, keep this in the back of your head when you're answering questions so that you know you're holistically giving an answer. Super easy acronym: situation, task, action, result. What situation did me and my team have? Oh, that's the other thing. Anyone who just talks about themselves and what they did and how I built this and I built that and I did this, kind of a red flag in my mind. When somebody actually talks about their team and then how they broke the tasks up between the team, that's a team player. And don't be afraid to ask, like this will help you when you're asking questions to get specific. I get a lot of like, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for a challenge. Yeah, no kidding, buddy. Define that for me, Well, I'm really looking for a healthy work environment. Great, define that for me. Ask the follow-up questions so you're actually getting some meat. And you're not just like, looking for a healthy work environment. Oh, this person's gonna be great for the role because they're looking for a healthy work environment. Well, what does that mean to them? Oh, I don't know. You're not helping anybody with that. So I'm a big digger, and it probably annoys people. And I find, this is like, again, EB personal opinion, it annoys people that are in a more junior position in their career versus somebody who's experienced. Because I think, now that I'm the answer to everything, I'm 42, and I lay it all on the line. I'm probably transparent to a fault. But we'll find out next Friday when I have my performance review. The other key, huge thing that ties into candidate experience, interview team experience, everybody's experience in the whole process is feedback. Give it timely, give it quickly, give it soon. Try to give it before the weekend. And it won't ruin their weekend like we think it's gonna, even though I've been doing this for 17 years and I still hate making the rejection phone call. You gotta do it. And be specific with the feedback so that they can improve. Because if you just say like, well, the team decided to move forward with another candidate who had more specific experience in our industry, that doesn't help them. But then again, there's legal issues, so you gotta toe that line. And then, this was a new lesson. One of our senior engineers came to me and said, what happened to, Dave Smith? Like, we interviewed him like 3 weeks ago, and I really liked him, and what happened? And I was like, well, we hired him, and he starts in 2 weeks. But how did you not know that? So don't forget to talk to your interview team, too. It's always good to retro with them after you interview somebody so that you guys can all, not everybody on the interview team gets to win at the end. Like, even if you don't like a candidate, that person might still be hired. But you gotta give feedback to the interview team, and then you can say, hey, Jade, we actually did hire Dave Smith. No, you weren't a big fan, but here's what other people saw value in, and this is what we're going to coach for, or whatever, however you want to handle it. I'm using a lot of whatevers. We're getting towards wrapping up, which is kind of exciting, but I'm really dorked out, so excited about the growth of Montana programmers, BigSky.com, and the tech community in Montana. It's super exciting. And like I mentioned earlier, everybody wants to work at a different company for different reasons. Somebody who's happy at Workiva is not going to be happy at SoFi. Somebody happy at SoFi is not going to be happy at Onyx Maps. Somebody happy at Onyx Maps is not going to be happy at Foundit. There's different reasons why we work at different companies. So differentiate your company and sell that. But let's work together as a community. I've tried like hell to do this, and I think I'm the only one. But I believe teamwork makes the brain work. And I hashtag Tech Life in Montana all the time. I have Wisetail following, Onyx. I got in trouble from my senior C-level leadership because I reposted, somebody's looking for a software engineer job, and I was like, oh my God, this is so great, Tech Life in Montana's growing. And my VP of HR called me on my phone and pretty much read me the riot act, and I was like, this is my community, man. I gotta share. We're going to agree to disagree here, and honestly, it took a lot of balls on my end to push back on her, but at the end of the day, she was like, you're right. So don't be afraid to share information and share people's social media posts, and if we could actually make this a trending hashtag, I would dork out even more, and I love dorking out. But yeah, so if you have social medias and I'm not following you, make me follow you, and I will, and I'll retweet, and I'll get in trouble, and I will bear that burden for all of tech in Montana. So we're doing it. We're done. Holy cow! Thank you so much. This is how you can get in touch with me. I was gonna put my phone number on there, but I'm on my phone all day. I don't even look at my phone at night. So. Easiest way is email or the tweeters. Big on the tweeters. But any questions or thoughts or comments or fears or vulnerabilities?